Hey everyone, I have been getting a lot of conversations going lately about database management, and what exactly it means and what exactly we're supposed to be doing in that database anyway. So I thought that I would just bring that conversation to a short little video that explains from a 30,000 foot view how to think about the database. So to do that, I am going to share my screen and we're just going to look at this conceptually for a minute using my little digital paper here. Okay, so I like to call this concept, or this way of thinking about the database, every lead has a home. Great, Megan, what does that mean? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So here we go. If this represents our database, if this represents our CRM, whatever you're using, then inside of it, I imagine you've got a lot of people hanging out, right? Here they all are. They're all inside this platform, whatever you're using, command, follow-up boss, sync, doesn't matter. And the way that people enter it, largely, we've got two different ways. So number one, we've got, let's say this is our Rainmaker met this person at a, let's just say a chamber event. Maybe they are a member of the chamber, they go, they meet somebody there, they have some great conversation, they take their information and they pick that person up and they drop them, boom, right there they are, right inside the CRM. Now, the other way that we have people coming in here is maybe we've got, let's call it Facebook ad running, and that Facebook ad generates a new lead, and that lead gets dropped in here. So really what we're saying here is we've got two different ways that we're adding people to the database. One is what we're going to call a MET, because we're Keller Williams and that's the language we speak. And METs really mean that they know, like, and trust us, and we know how to get in touch with them. So we have their contact information. This other side, this Facebook group, these are not METs. They don't qualify as know, like, or trust us. They saw an ad on Facebook, they clicked for more information. Maybe they attended an open house, so we have put our eyes on them. We even introduced ourselves, so we have, quote, met them, but they wouldn't remember us from, another realtor at a different open house they went to. They don't know, like, and trust us. We're not certain they know, like, and trust us. These people are our unmets. So generally speaking, this is how most databases, as a coach, I come in, I look at what's going on in our CRM. I see this a lot. Like maybe we've got some sort of met tag like SOI, and we have some sort of unmet tag like Facebook lead. But generally speaking, we're dropping people in here, and there's really no way for us to go find this human, this exact person again. We have no idea what happened to them if, let's say, our Rainmaker didn't call them up, next week, next month, whatever, and remind them about us, tell them about some event we're hosting. They'll never hear from us again, and we'll never see their name again. They just get lost. They're just one of, some of y'all got like 10,000, 20,000 people up in here. They're just lost, okay? So what does it mean for every lead to have a home? I'm so glad you asked. Here's the opportunity. Here's how our databases, here's how our CRMs could look. We could choose to set them up differently. We could choose to think about them differently. And that is, everyone has a home. No homeless people in our CRM. So of course, we talk about this home a lot at Keller Williams. We'll call this the 36 touch home. It's our METs. So these are the people who know, like, and trust us. We talked about that definition, and we've got their contact information. Now, this house costs money to turn over. A 36 touch isn't free. We're spending some money on this house. This house also gives us the most money of any of the other houses in our database. In fact, we know that we want this house to turn over at greater than 10%. So let's say our Rainmaker now goes and meets somebody at a chamber event, right? And Rainmaker knows how this works. They know what house we want them to go into. They get their contact information and we drop them straight into this house. How is that different? Well, this house is going to be running a marketing campaign called a 36 touch. And we'll get a little bit into a 36 touch here in just a minute, what could be on that campaign. Again, we spend money on this house. This house also outputs money to us. It's a revenue generating house. So since we know that we get the most money from this house, we want the most people in this house. A lot of what we do in our CRM is converting people to METs, because the more people that are here, the more revenue we can generate out of this house that produces 10% or higher. Now, if your house isn't producing 10% or higher, that's what we're going to get to in a minute, your marketing campaign. So how do people get to this house other than our Rainmaker met them at a chamber event and then put them here? Well, great question. So let's say we actually are running Facebook ads and we want them to enter into, obviously that's not a 36 touch house. We're not going to spend that kind of money on this person yet because they don't know, like, or trust us. So they're not going to turn over at that rate. Instead, there's a lot of different programs out there in the Kellerverse. You got 10 days of pain, 20 days of gain, all that stuff. My favorite is 4 days of love. First of all, it's 4 days. And second of all, it's of love. And why that's different, this is an Emily Baker program, if you know her. Why that's different is it focuses on the relationship and the human and not the transaction. And it is easily, I've seen it be, have the highest pickup rates and voice-to-voice contact rates of any of the other campaigns. So, we could talk about that too on a different conversation, but 4 days of love is basically how you convert someone who you've never spoken with. You've never had a meaningful two-way text, phone call, email. You have not been able to exchange with this person. They can go into this 4 days of love. Now, this campaign is expensive in time, but it's basically free otherwise. So we're not really spending any money to market to this house. We're really trying, our interest is in getting them to have a conversation with us so that we convert. Now, we know the NAR stats for these cold leads are 1 to 3%. That might not be your stat. I do encourage you to know your stat, but if we're looking at the NAR statistics, this is a 1 to 3% conversion for the kinds of leads that would drop into 4 days of love. Now, it's only 4 days long. What happens to people who are leaving 4 days of love? Because everyone has a home. They can't be homeless. We need a home to send them to. Our ultimate goal is to have a conversation with them, convert them to an appointment or into our pipeline. And if they know us well enough to be in our pipeline, we know them well enough for them to be in our pipeline, then they actually turn into a 36 touch. So they move straight from our 4 days of love to 36 touch. When we can set that appointment, we have them in our pipeline and they know, like, and trust us. If they've agreed to have an appointment with us, that's a pretty good start. So 36 touch, this is the house. All roads lead to the 36 touch because the 36 touch gets us the most revenue. We get this 10% here. Okay, what happens if they never responded to our phone calls, emails, or text? Well, I'm so glad you asked, because we need another house because everyone has a home. So if they never responded to anything we were doing, we want to pick them up and we're going to put them in an 8x8. Now, I would encourage you, especially if you've selected a 4 days of love, which is a relationship building 4 days. It's talking about the people, the experience. It's not talking about the house or the transaction. Then we're going to put them on an 8x8 that matches that. So again, 4 days of love, some of the hooks on those campaigns are going to be like, hey, I saw you clicked on this home. I'd love to give you more information. The 8x8 that matches, though, is really going to be more like, hey, have you met Sarah? She's our transaction coordinator. We have this full, robust team to help manage your transaction. Click here on our website to learn more about us. So it's very relationship driven, this 8x8. It's wanting them to get to know, like, and trust us. Imagine that, because we want to move them to the 36 touch house. So we've got a lot of people in here. These are the people we never really did connect with on the 4 days of love. So for instance, 4 days of love is not appropriate for maybe an open house lead, but neither is a 36 touch. We talked to them for a few minutes, they excused themselves and walked around the house, and they disappeared while we were talking to another client. So sometimes the open house, something like an open house lead or somebody we meet at the grocery store for a brief interaction, 4 days of love is inappropriate. We would want to drop them straight into 8x8. So what happens if in the 8x8 we don't get to a place where they know, like, and trust us? Of course, again, that's the goal. We set an appointment, we put them in our pipeline, we invite them to an event, whatever it is, and then they end up here in our 36 touch. But what happens if they don't? Well, we've got another house over here called 19 to Connect. I'm sure if you have been around Keller Williams, you've heard this one. This is in Shift, this is in MREA. The 19 to Connect is like your 36 touch light. So it's not going to be a $2 sign house, it's going to be a $1 sign house, because we are not quite as aggressively spending on these people. So instead of 4 events, for instance, this is usually a 2 events. So just to give you an example of how there's some differences here. Now, these people have stuck with us, they haven't unsubscribed from here, but we've not gotten to a place where they know, like, and trust us. So they're hanging out here on the 19 to Connect. The second that they come to an event and we're having meaningful conversations and they're getting to know us, we're getting to know them, then we're going to pick them up and we're going to put them in the 36 touch house, because this house is the revenue generating house. So we always want all roads to lead here, seeing a little 36 touch net house. Now, these are, you notice, 4 houses. There is, is there any of this over here? You see these leads getting put in over here without a house? No, there's none of that, because every lead has a home, and we know what our conversion chances are in each of these homes. We know what these homes cost us. With 8x8, again, it's expensive in terms of time. So we need somebody who's going to call, but it doesn't cost us any money. And it's going to have that continued 1 to 3% conversion rate for these people who don't know us. 1 to 3% versus 10%. We're always wanting to push people into the 36 touch Met house. That's where the money is. Now, occasionally, if you don't have these 4 houses and you've just got people, or even if you do, but you got people hanging out all over here, your challenge is, your homework is to go clean this up. We want to get rid of these people who are not in a home that everybody deserves a home to be in. Now, if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I need 20 homes, you don't. Really, everybody that we just talked about would fit into one of these 4 homes. Occasionally, once you've got your 4 homes really set up, I'll give you permission to add maybe a 5th one. For example, you might do a lot of agent to agent referral business, and you might have an agent to agent 36 touch that you specifically market to, and that could be its very own home. For the most part, though, really our 4 days of love, 8x8, 19 to Connect, and 36 touch should be robust enough that it is handling everybody in our CRM. Every lead has a home. Instantly, you can see where, okay, maybe 1 to 3% conversion is not amazing, and it's better than 0% conversion from these people we dumped in here 10 years ago and then never did anything with. So when we make sure every lead has a home, we are maximizing the conversions possible from our lead generating activities. Now, I told you we were going to come back to 36 touch. So 36 touch, that is 10% plus. This is our goal. Anything less than 10%, we have some room for improvement. Now, I'll tell you this. Here's what I've learned from keeping track of my coaching clients over the years. Really, a strong house that is only marketing. So it's the best marketing, though. It's really good marketing, but it's void of any voice-to-voice contact. It's worth about 4%. It's hard to get higher than 4% without any interaction from our team that is two-way contact. So pushing out messaging is worth, at its most, I've seen about 4%. Now, when we add in the non-primary relationship, so let's say we've got an ISA department that's really pushing through the 36 touch. So they're really the ones making the phone calls on that 36 touch. Then that segment of the house converts usually just around 8%. So there's some above, some below. This is an average. When we have the primary person calling, we have 10% plus, 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 plus. This is like almost unlimited based on skill set of the primary dialer. So in reality, for some of you, if you've got like 10,000 people in your METs, you're probably doing a little bit of all of this. There will be a segment of your Met house that converts at 4%, a segment of your Met house with your ISA team that converts at 8%, and a segment of your Met house that's called by your the actual primary relationship that converts out, for instance, 20%. Either way you slice it, what are we doing in order to get this rhythm? Well, the whole thing is based on flow. So we need minimum 12 emails. We're not looking to send them spam so that they're unsubscribing, so we don't want it to get too out of control, but 12 emails that go out in a rhythm. So let's just say you pick the second Tuesday of every month. So second Tuesday, they're going to get they're going to get an email from you. Now we recognize up front, if we've got a 10% turnover rate, right? We recognize that 90% of people reading the email are not ready to transact real estate. That's okay. That means that we might choose to make the very first thing in our email relational. Maybe it's highlighting the fact that we are local experts by saying something like the top 3 local nutritionalists for hitting your New Year's goals, and it should not be long. We don't want people to have to scroll to remember that this is a real estate email, but it's okay to acknowledge the fact that 90% of the people opening this email are not actually interested in transacting real estate. The very second thing, and again, you shouldn't have to scroll to see it, should be some real estate stat, a hot stat. You don't have to make it. Your market center is usually producing one every single month. You could take that graphic and throw it in there. But it should be a hot stat. And the better you are at this, the more robust this email campaign can become. The third thing should always be your event or whatever to give away to do you've got coming up for the team. So we also are going to throw in 12 postcards. Now this is based off of the Hobbs Herder research, which if you want the sort of full thing, you can read the farming, all of the farming research that Keller Williams has, Shift, etc. The concept was to figure out how to maintain market share. So I'm not even going to address taking market share, which is the farming piece, but to maintain market share in an audience where you are known. So in other words, your Met database, you would want them to get one piece of post a quarter. So one postcard per quarter. Ideally, this is happening every offset by your email. So if your email goes out every second Tuesday, your postcard it lands in the mailbox every fourth Tuesday. And this does not need to be fancy. It needs to be consistent. So if it looks one way, like just listed, just sold, let's say, that's perfectly acceptable thing to do with your logo in the top right-hand corner. It should look that way every time. The idea isn't like, who is this? I can't figure it out because now it's a pumpkin and yesterday it was a tulip. It should look the same every time so that they see it and instantly these people who know, like, and trust you are like, oh my goodness, Megan Henry, she's doing it again. Oh wow, she sold another one. This is incredible. Like, she's just really busy. Trash. It's fine. We're just keeping our mind share in the mind of that person. Okay, so I already mentioned events. Events should happen quarterly. And here's the thing to remember. It is not about the event. If 0 people attended, that would be fine. And here's why I say that. The events are the reason for your team to call the database. So this would ideally follow something roughly like this. Let's say 60 days out, it is a save the date postcard. So now they were getting our 12 postcards plus 4 because we're getting them event postcards. 30 days out, it's an invitation. Maybe you send them an Eventbrite or an Evite or whatever, but you send out the invitation. And roughly at the same time, it is an all-day call day, yay, where we are going to actually talk to the database about the event. So how many times do we need to talk to the database? Quarterly. What are we calling them about? The event is the excuse to call them. So if 0 people came to the event, but we actually called them all, this would be a victory. Now, then we have the event itself. And if you guys are really feeling zazzy, you're really up for it, you can do a post-event call. So let's say before the event, the team's capacity is such that you could call 300 people, but you have 500 Mets. Then maybe after the event, you call the other 200. Just one way to think about that. Now, what are you doing when you call? Well, you need to do a couple things for this to actually matter for you. So number one, you need to set an intention for the all-day call day. So this is what we're talking about now, all-day call day. Set an intention. In other words, I have seen people have 1,000 people to call and they call all 1,000 and they set 0 appointments and they get 0 referrals on all-day call day. That was nothing. That was nothing. That didn't do anything. So You need to set an intention. The goal is not to just talk to a lot of people that you like. The goal is to transact real estate. So we are going to tell ourselves, our team, we're going to all decide what we're going to do. So maybe if I'm on a team and you are coaching me, you're going to coach me, help me think through how many people do I actually need to talk to. So I'm going to set my own personal goal, an all-day call day. I'm going to talk to 100 people. I'm going to set 10 outcomes as my goal, where an outcome is an appointment or a referral. So now I have an intention. Then you are going to script practice your team. And I really recommend that you do this a few weeks in advance, depending on how skilled your team is. And you're going to script practice, what are they going to say when they call? So how do you get a 10% outcome here, right? 10, I want to call 100 people and I want 10 outcomes. How do you do that? You have to go in with a plan. And the skill set here, the revenue generating skill set, is the script practice. Now, I'm going to give you the script. It's right here. Here it is. Now, this script has worked. The best I've ever seen this script get is 2.5 conversations to 1 outcome. 2.5 conversations to 1 outcome, not 10 to 1, 2.5 to 1. That's why the script and the skill development, the script practice, is so important. So you'll recognize this if you've been to Bold, but we are going to go in with forwarding. I am going to require in the script that you focus on occupation. Naturally, in our human, in our English set of sort of etiquette, it would be normal for me, if I ask you about your occupation, that either you would reciprocate and ask me, or if I tell you whether or not you ask me, it's totally normal. So when we go in with occupation, asking about occupation, then it's easy for us to reciprocate. Then we're going to go into the reason for my call. And that, oh, sorry, I forgot informant. So we're going to do occupation. Whoops. Then we're going to go into hot stat. Now, as an operations professional, here's your opportunity to arm your sales team with hot stats that they could pull out for the script. So it could be, we sold a home for 20% over. It could be homes in your area in general are selling for X% more than this time last year. That would be a Z% return on investment for homes like yours, whatever the hot stat is for your area. Now, this is where most of the skill set development comes in, because we are also going to need to pre-qualify. We're going in for the appointment here after the hot stat. I'll give you an example here in a minute. Then we're going to go into the reason for my call. So if we totally fail at the hot stat, no one is biting, this conversation is going nowhere fast, we're going to skip ahead to the reason for my call, and it is the event. And lastly, we're going to go out with a forward, pick anything. These are your METs. So your team, your agents should know something, even if it's just something they saw on Facebook. They'll have some other thing to focus on. Forward stands for family, occupation, recreation, dreams. So here's how this could sound. I forgot the very first part. We're going to actually ask permission in the script, which also sets the time boundary. So if I'm going to talk to 100 people today, I can't have 100 1-hour long conversations. There's just not enough time in the day. So here's how it would sound. Hey, Susie, it's Megan. Did I catch you at a good time? Do you have a few minutes? So this is asking permission and setting the expectation that this is a 5-minute conversation. We're not going to catch up for half an hour. Oh, great. Well, while I've got you, I'm calling about an event actually, but while I've got you, I remember that you were working from home last time we spoke. Are you still doing that? Occupation. Let them answer however they're going to answer. No, we moved back in the office, whatever, blah, blah, blah. How about you? I work from anybody's home. I'm an agent, so I'm working from all kinds of homes all day long. I mean, this market is crazy. You would not believe. Our listings are actually selling for about 20% over asking price, and that's 5% more than they were selling for this time last year. On average, that's a realization of about 20 extra grand for most of our sellers. Isn't that incredible? So hot stat. See how naturally it flowed from occupation to hot stat. Now I'm just this is the bait. Have you guys looked at all at what your home might be worth, and would you guys be interested in knowing that information? Now, if they're just like, no, not at all, us, we're going to die here, I'm probably going to go straight into the reason for my call. But if I've been script practicing for 2 weeks, I'm ready to listen for the hint that they are ready to potentially have an appointment. And I'm not just going to jump and set an appointment, because I'm going to have a whole bunch of just like coffee appointments where they're just checking in. I'm going to qualify. Like, if you guys did want to realize that income from that investment of your home, where do you think you would go? Right? So I'm just going to follow LP Mama. Your agents know what that is. If you don't worry about it, but make sure we're script practicing around that. Then you can go into, whenever this terminates, either in an appointment or referral, or they just lose interest in the conversation, then, hey, listen, the actual reason for my call is we're having this crazy Easter egg drop event on Saturday, and we just would love for you guys to come. So reason for my call. And then we're going to close it out in the bold fashion with another forward. So, the weather has been insane. I actually got out for the first time to the lake this last weekend and went kayaking. I know that you guys love to fish. Have you been this season yet? So whatever would be just a normal, natural forward to close out here to make it personal again. And we're going to end the conversation. This is the 36 touch. The reason it works is we keep mind share with the emails and postcards rhythm. And then we actually do the work of voice to voice, looking for an outcome, not just looking to have a fun conversation with friends, but looking for an outcome of either a referral or an appointment. When we do the event calls, we work on our skill set development as a team by scripting them in. Us too, by the way, our DOs, we might only have 5 friends, but we should call all 5 around the quarterly events with the same sort of script. So help your teams maximize what is possible in the CRM by getting rid of this amoeba thing that we tend to do, organizing it into every lead has a home, where we understand and can maximize our return on our investment here, and then make sure our 36 touch is set up to generate a 10+ return. If you have questions, I would love to hear them. Put them in the chat below on the Facebook group, and I would love to know how to help you guys do this. So, and/or your results once you do it. Let us know how it's going. Okay, gang. Thanks again. Talk to you soon. Love talking to you guys about the database. Have a great one.